Hello, friends. Welcome to Creative Medicine. In this lecture, we will learn about.
Hello friends, let us now learn some important points about the scalp. Scalp is made up of the muscles. This is the scalp, okay? Laterally on each side, see scalp is extends anteriorly from the up to the eyebrows. Scalp extends anteriorly up to the eyebrows, posteriorly up to the superior nuchal line, laterally on each side up to the superior temporal line. Scalp extends anteriorly up to the eyebrows, posteriorly up to the superior nuchal line, laterally on each side up to the superior temporal line. Now, what are the layers of scalp? Scalp includes skin, connective tissue. It has an aponeurotic layer. It has loose areolar tissue, then pericranium. Then it has the dural venous sinuses. So if you see skin, this is the skin. This skin is adherent to the epicranial aponeurosis by the dense connective tissue. This is the dense connective tissue. So skin is connected to this aponeurotic layer by the dense connective tissue in between. This skin has hair. These are the hair, and you see maximum hair follicles which are present. Along with that, there will be sebaceous glands will be present. Sweat glands will also be present in the skin. Then the second layer is this connective tissue. This connective tissue is divided into many septa. You can see different septa which are present in the connective tissue. So this connective tissue is a superficial fascia and dense fibrous connective tissue, and this is separated by many numerous septa which will divide the whole connective tissue into small pockets of fat, and in each pocket of fat there will be a blood vessel, there will be a vein, and there will be also the nerve. It has blood vessel, vein and nerve. So when they are torn, okay, these blood vessels are adherent to each other by fibrous network. So when they are torn, they are not able to retract easily because there is no muscle, only there is fibrous content. So as a result, these blood vessels which are present in the connective tissue will bleed profusely. Then how do you stop bleeding? This bleeding can be stopped by pressing against hard over the bone like this. So like this, by pressing hard over the bone, you can stop the bleeding. Next, the next layer is the second layer, this one green colored tissue. This is aponeurotic layer. This aponeurotic layer is formed by two muscles, aponeurosis. One occipitofrontalis and its aponeurosis. Occipitofrontalis has a frontal belly and the occipital belly. Okay. This aponeurosis is under the tension. Okay. So because it is under the tension, the wound does not gape, or this is the cut. Okay, the wound will not separate out easily unless it is torn transversely. Okay, for example, if this is the aponeurosis, okay, if it is torn longitudinally like this, so if it is torn longitudinally like this, the wound will not separate each other because they are very tightly adherent to each other. Like this, they are tightly adherent, so they won't easily get separated. But if they are cut transversely like this, because this tightness which is there is lost, so now they get separated. Then the next connective tissue is loose areolar connective tissue. Loose areolar connective tissue is this one. This is a loose areolar connective tissue which is a natural plane for cleavage of craniotomy. This is the areolar connective tissue is a site where we cleave for craniotomy, and this is transmitted or pierced by emissary veins. Then the next we have pericranium. This is the cranium. This is the cranial bone. Above that you will have a small layer which is called as pericranium. This pericranium is formed by the periosteum of the bones, and it is loosely attached to the bones. So these are the different layers of the scalp. Right. The next important thing is, as I have said, occipitofrontalis is the layer for this occipitofrontalis is a layer for aponeurosis, right? So this occipitofrontalis origin of occipitofrontalis, it has two bellies, frontal belly and occipital belly. The frontal belly takes its origin from the eyebrows, skin and subcutaneous tissues of eyebrows and the root of the nose. It originates from skin and subcutaneous tissue of eyebrows. If this is the nose, from the root of the nose and skin and subcutaneous tissue of eyebrows, it originates like this. Okay, and then it inserts into the galio-aponeurosis in front of the cranial sutures. The nerve supply is supplied to the temporal branch of the facial nerve. So this is frontal belly. Then if you see the occipital belly gets its origin from the lateral 2/3 of the superior nuchal lines. It is originated from lateral 2/3 of superior nuchal lines, and it gets inserted into the epicranial aponeurosis. This is epicranial aponeurosis where it gets inserted into. If you see the nerve supply, this occipital belly is supplied by posterior auricular branch of the facial nerve. It is supplied by posterior auricular branch of facial nerve, whereas occipitofrontalis is supplied by temporal branch of the facial nerve. So these are the two important points about occipitofrontalis, that is frontal belly, and the occipital belly. Okay, what are the actions of occipitofrontalis? This occipitofrontalis will move the scalp forward and backward. See, if the occipitofrontalis contraction of occipitofrontalis, because this will contract, this is attached to the skin of the eyebrows and the root of the nose. So this will raise the eyebrows up in surprise. When the occipital belly is contract, then this will be contracted like this. So as a result, it produces transverse wrinkles are produced on the forehead. So these are the important points about occipitofrontalis. Then if you see the motor supply of the scalp and the sensory supply of the scalp. The scalp supply can be divided into two parts, that is present in front of the auricle and behind the auricle. Then in front of the auricle, the motor supply in front of the auricle is by supratrochlear nerve, supraorbital nerve, zygomaticotemporal nerve, and auriculotemporal nerve. Supratrochlear nerve, this is supratrochlear nerve, supraorbital nerve, zygomaticotemporal nerve, auriculotemporal nerve. Supratrochlear nerve and supraorbital nerve are from the ophthalmic branch of trigeminal nerve. It is from ophthalmic branch of trigeminal nerve, whereas zygomaticotemporal and auriculotemporal is from the trigeminal nerve. Supraorbital and supratrochlear is from the ophthalmic branch of the trigeminal nerve, whereas zygomaticotemporal and auriculotemporal is from the trigeminal nerve. And behind the ear, it also has branches to greater auricular nerve, lesser occipital nerve, greater occipital nerve, and third occipital nerve. Greater auricular nerve, lesser occipital nerve, greater occipital nerve, and it gives branches to third occipital nerve. So these are seen behind the ear. So in front of the ear, we have supratrochlear, supraorbital, zygomaticotemporal, and auriculotemporal, whereas behind the ear, we have branches to greater auricular, lesser occipital, greater occipital, and third occipital nerve. Greater auricular, lesser occipital, greater occipital, and third occipital nerve, we have the branches. Okay, so this is sensory supply of the face. Then if you see the motor supply by facial nerve, two branches of facial nerve will give motor supply. One, temporal branch of the facial nerve. Then we have posterior auricular branch of facial nerve. Temporal branch of the facial nerve will supply to this temporal branch of the facial nerve will supply the frontal belly of the occipitofrontalis, whereas posterior auricular branch of the facial nerve will supply the occipital branch of the occipital belly of the occipitofrontalis. So this is about the motor supply of the scalp. Then if you see the arterial supply of the scalp, arterial supply of the scalp can be divided into, we have branches from the ophthalmic artery and we have branches from the external carotid artery. So ophthalmic artery is a branch of internal carotid artery. So ophthalmic artery, which is a branch of internal carotid artery, will give supratrochlear artery and supraorbital artery. So ophthalmic artery, which is a branch from the internal carotid artery, will give branches to two arteries. One, it is supratrochlear artery, second supraorbital artery. Whereas a branch of the external carotid artery, which are branches of the external carotid artery include, we have superficial temporal artery, posterior auricular artery and occipital artery. So branch of the ophthalmic artery from internal carotid artery are supratrochlear artery and supraorbital artery, and branches of the external carotid artery include superficial temporal artery, posterior auricular artery and occipital artery are the branches from external carotid artery, whereas branches from ophthalmic artery from internal carotid are supratrochlear and supraorbital artery. Because of this rich blood supply to the scalp muscle, the scalp, if there is any bleeding in the scalp, this will easily quickly heal because of this high vascularity. Then if you see the venous drainage. So venous drainage, if you see, we have supratrochlear vein, supraorbital vein. This supratrochlear vein and supraorbital vein will combine together and it forms angular vein. Now this angular vein will combine with some more veins and it forms facial vein. Now this facial vein will combine with retromandibular vein anterior division. Now how is this retromandibular vein formed? It is formed from superior temporal vein. Superior temporal vein will combine with maxillary vein. Superior temporal vein will combine with maxillary vein and it forms retromandibular vein. Superior temporal vein will combine with maxillary vein and it forms retromandibular vein. Now this retromandibular vein will form two divisions. One, it gives anterior division and posterior division. Now once the retromandibular vein gives anterior division, it forms anterior division of retromandibular vein combines with the facial vein to form common facial vein. Anterior division of retromandibular vein combines with the facial vein to form common facial vein. Now this common facial vein will drain into internal jugular vein. Okay. Now what about the posterior division of retromandibular vein? This posterior division of retromandibular vein will combine with posterior auricular vein and it forms external jugular vein. Posterior division of retromandibular vein will combine with auricular vein and it forms external jugular vein. Now, this from the facial vein, it also gives a branch to the pterygoid plexus. Okay, this is pterygoid plexus. Similarly, from there will be a superior ophthalmic vein. Okay, here you will have superior ophthalmic vein in the eye. Okay, this superior ophthalmic vein will also give a branch to cavernous sinus. So it gives branches to a sinus which is called cavernous sinus. Okay, now whenever there is some infection in the face, in the triangle, in the upper lip, so here infection in the upper lip or root of the nose, here in this triangular area, whenever there is infection, then this infection easily spreads through the facial vein, through the supraorbital, supratrochlear, then ophthalmic vein, superior ophthalmic vein and then into the cavernous sinus. Similarly, it also spreads through the facial vein to the pterygoid venous plexus. So this area of the face is called as dangerous area of the face, that is in the middle upper lip and the nose. This is dangerous area of the face. Thank you for watching.
Thank you and thank you for watching.